Hello everybody, this is Dee and welcome to my channel, Dee versus Retirement. Thanks so much for being here today. Boy, I got a lot of stuff here today. I got my computer over here with notes. I've got my budget notes over here. And we are going to talk about my 2026 budget and the changes coming up. Now, there's not a ton of changes. I'll zoom you out for a while. Anyhow, there's not a ton of changes coming up in terms of how I budget. I'm still cash stuffing, all that kind of stuff. But I've decided my budget word for the year 2026 is going to be flexibility. I haven't published the video yet, but I've been working on a video about transitioning from saver to spender. And this has been something that I have struggled with my entire time since I retired. I have done all these functions in ways to try to still allow me to save and spend, and it's something I've really struggled with. And a few months ago, I asked people to ask questions, and I only got 2 people that responded. And one of the people asked, what are my main budget busters? And that really got me to thinking. And it was very clear to me, my main budget busters, they're not really budget busters because I plan for them. But the thing that I actually have the easiest time doing is making a large expenditure once I have planned for it and prepared for it. Letting go of that money is easy for me. That has been true this last year in my RV. Now, I can't say that letting go of that money was easy for me. However, I had planned for it. I had prepared for it. I had saved for it. I had the cash to buy it. It was very, very difficult for me to make that decision, but I was able to do it and not feel guilt. What I am noticing is in my regular budget, sometimes it is hard for me just to treat myself with something. And I think part of that is because what I have tried to do in the past is what I do in my variable expenses. And I will keep doing that. But that is to schedule lots of money, and then have a 10 to 15% savings goal. That works very well for me in my variable expenses because these are things I need in my life. I need food, I need gas, right? And additionally, when I don't spend on those products, that's the money that goes to fund mostly my casino money while I'm cruising, but a few other things as well. And those are not things I have trouble spending on. Right? Going to the casino when I cruise is what keeps me in free cruises, not only for me, but my sister. And so I'm willing to spend that money. However, applying that to my entire budget has made me question everything that I don't necessarily have to have. Yep, I put out the money for medical expense, $2,000 for a hot water heater, whatever, those things need to be made. But I will struggle for weeks as to whether I want to buy a sticker book or not, right? Because I want to be under budget. And so I've looked back at my spending over the last 5 years, and I am so far under budget on the things that would be in this budget, right? I have spent a few of those years, I have spent my whole budget, but it's almost always been when I've made a major purchase, like my RV or when I bought a car. And this year when I went to Italy, right? So I have spent my whole budget for those things or emergencies or whatever, but I am always significantly under budget in my day-to-day life. The things I budget for are things that are important to me, and I want to make sure I get back to buying them. This does not mean I'm going to spend all willy-nilly. I'm not a willy-nilly spender, right? Everything I purchase needs to support my life. But this means I am going to spend without the expectation that I need to save. So I have done a couple of things this year to make that work for me. And as I said, the word for this year is going to be flexibility. The first thing I am going to do is I am significantly lowering my overall budget this year with the intention to spend it all. In the last few years, there have been some things like travel that I haven't spent my max amount on because of opportunity. Camping in the minivan made it difficult. I had to cancel a lot of trips. However, with the RV now, I suspect I'll spend more. I'm still lowering my overall budget. Again, even this overall budget lowered is more than I have spent in the last few years. So I am going to be lowering that budget with the intentions of spending it all. Another thing I'm going to do is just be incredibly comfortable with taking money out of one fund for another. I am really good about making sure I have plenty of medical stocked and escrow short and all that kind of stuff. But now if I want a sticker book and I don't have $30 in my shopping, I'll just take it out of somewhere else, right? Or even more importantly, what I will do is save for those fund categories that I have and then be willing to take money out of those if an expense comes up. I have a well-funded emergency fund. I additionally have 2 years of out-of-pocket medical cost in a CD. So I am prepared for the worst that can come up. I have saved what I need to save. Now it's time to spend to support the life that I want. The other thing that I am going to do, the other big part of this is in my annual goals, savings challenges that I do. That has always been save, and then if I don't need the money, I can reallocate it. In those annual goals that I am doing this year, the amount of this budget plus those annual goals plus taxes paid equals my entire budget. I am going to give myself permission to reallocate those funds before the end of the year if I need to. Right? This is going to free me up. So if I decide I'm going to go ahead and spend extra money on a trip and then I have an emergency come up, I can allocate some of those funds out of the money that I'm currently saving instead of waiting for a CD to cash in or whatever. Again, freeing me up to spend in my budget for the things that are important to my living my quality life. All right, so that's the big financial things. There's going to be a few things on how I actually do the budget, and I'm going to cover that with you in just a second. But I want to say that part of the reason the way I'm doing the budget is going to change is it just brings me further back to the way I've always budgeted in my past. As a working person, when I got paychecks, I budgeted this way, and it was always very successful for me. I am keeping my sinking funds, which I didn't do in the past. But basically, I'm going to go back to the biweekly budget, and I'm doing the whole budget biweekly. The other reason I'm going to do this is as part of the rebranding of my channel to be also retirement focused, I want to put budget with me's out there so that people can see people thinking about retirement, planning for retirement, in retirement. It's not so necessarily they can see my numbers. I mean, we're all curious about that, but I want them to see or hear my thought process when I budget. That's even more important because their expenses are going to be different. Their financial situation is going to be different, but the processes into thinking about what you're budgeting for will be the same. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these more as I go ahead. Now, I don't ever talk about my bills individually. For those of you who don't know, and this is just something I know through past experience. Sorry, I need a sip of coffee. When you are doing online verification sometimes, and they're trying to verify your identity, they will ask questions like, what's the amount of your last mortgage payment? Or what address did you not live at? Those are things they're pulling off your credit report. And so people do things as you will. But for me, to tell you the amount of my mortgage and what date it comes out, I think sets me up for some fraud. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be set up. And I trust my followers, right? I mean, I really do. I really trust you. But this is a big platform and people can go looking, the wrong people can go looking for information. That is why I choose not to disclose the amount of my bills and the dates they come out. I also do not disclose where my bank accounts are and how much or how I have them reallocated or distributed. Again, for the same reason. I don't want someone to watch one of my videos and decide I have enough money in X account or an X bank account for them to try to fraud me. So I am very careful about that, and this is why I do it. What I can share with you is the total amount. So the total amount of my bills are $1,860 per month. I do not have any debt other than my mortgage, which I do not consider as a debt. It's another video coming up. But my bills did go down this year because my health insurance went down. I did a video on that about how I saved money by lowering my plan this year because keeping the plan I had last year was going to be too much. I just went back to a lower plan. So my bills went down. I am a month ahead on my bills, meaning at all times there's enough money sitting in my checking account to pay the next month's bills. Therefore, when I do my bi-weekly budget again, it's bi-monthly. Bi-monthly is twice a month. The 1st and the 15th is when I'm going to do this. So when I do that bi-monthly budget, I will account for half of the money in here. All right? So let's just start at the top. Let me zoom you in a little bit here. All right, I am not going to tell you which one is which, right? But I am going to tell you that I get income from 3 sources. My Social Security, distributions from my IRA, and cash that I have on hand. That's post, it's not cash sitting in my house, but it's post taxes. I've already paid taxes on it. Additionally, I will have some miscellaneous income sometime. In January, I'm going to have a huge amount of miscellaneous income because of one video that I posted. Still blows my mind. Anyhow, this is where it is, and I'm not going to tell you which way it goes, but this is going to be my income that I am going to disperse throughout the year. So that income is going to be $51,960. All right? That is an income I am very grateful for. In addition to that, I have annual goals income that I can put aside and save or reallocate later. Often that real allocation is to future D, but that's fine. Anyhow, I am grateful for this. I know that many people would look at this. I'm a single female. I live on my own. I have a house. I know that a lot of people would look at this and say, you have so much money. And that might make them feel bad. And that's not my intention, to share the amount of money that I have. I also know that there are people that would look at this income and go, how on earth are you living on this income? And that is the point of this channel, as I'm not only living on this income, I'm living a pretty darn good life on it, because the way that I choose to spend intentionally and be intentional with my spending. So anyhow, so as I go through each month, I will allocate half of this money. My annual expense for bills is going to be $22,320. As I said, no debt. Basically, it's just my car insurance, my health insurance, and my home expenses. That's all that's on there. I think my cell phone, I even moved subscriptions out of there. That's pretty much what it cost me to live. I am hoping to sell my house soon because my costs are far more significant owning my home. Now, let's go to my variable expenses. My variable expenses are going to be the same as last year. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and keep you here while I write these down, because there's not that many of them that I need to do. Now, when I have my variable expenses, I always want to make sure that I have room within this budget to spend. And if I do not spend it, if I choose not to spend this money, then I can use it for extra fun. And as I said earlier, mostly it goes to the casino on cruise ships so I can keep getting free cruises. In the usual monthly areas, I'm very seldom under budget on consumables or household. If I am under budget on consumables one month, I tend to be right at budget the next month. And it's usually because I've traveled. For instance, in November, I took a 10-day cruise, and then it was Thanksgiving week and all that kind of stuff. And so I hardly spent any money in November. But then yesterday I went and spent a good amount of money already in December. Now, household, I also usually spend all of that, but eating out, hobbies, spending, and social, I have usually quite a bit of money left over in there. Again, it's often opportunity cost, but I want to make sure I always have plenty of money, especially in things like social group. I don't want to not go to an event because I can't afford it. And so I make sure that I give myself a good allocation for that. This year, the amount that I'm giving myself is $300 for groceries. That is an increase because I'm also doing household. Last year, I put those together, and I think it was $300. So now it's $350. And household is pretty much anything else: the toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, etc. Eating out is going to be the same $30. I rarely spend that, and this year I'm going to try to spend it. Right? Once in a while, I like Taco Bell, you guys. That's another reason I don't eat out a lot. Is because the choices I make are not good ones. Anyhow, hobbies, $30 a month. That is all I need for an occasional sticker book or a new pen or whatever. And spending is $100 and social is $150. Spending is what other people would call a miscellaneous, and that is just money that I have for all the other things that I may need. And then gas is $110 plus carryover, because I have carryover from last year that's going to be left in that envelope. And this $110, I rarely spend all of it, and I leave it in that envelope. It pays for car washes, oil changes, and my tags for my minivan, not my RV. So this total is $770, and that makes an annual amount of $9,240. The last couple of years, I've only spent like $6,000 of this. But again, that extra money has gone to help me earn free cruises. So I guess I should be carrying this down here. So after my monthly bills, I have $2,470 left, and then minus my variable, $1,700 left. And on an annual basis, $29,640, and then minus this, $20,400. Okay, and I just looked at the camera, and this is going to be a longer video, so I'm sorry. If you need to tune out, that's fine. If you're staying and are curious, we can do that too. So in my categories this year, I am going to pause you real quick and write these down. All right, I am back. Let me grab a little pen right here. Well, not a pen, little pen, a pen. And because I need to annotate here what is going to have carryover included, and that pen doesn't work. I will just find another pen with an end on it in a different color. There we go. And YouTube TV plus carryover, and lawn plus carryover, car maintenance and RV and van maintenance, and when life happens. Okay, so this is just, there are a couple things with my sinking funds that are different, and I think I talked about that. I don't save my sinking funds in my envelopes from year to year in all categories. And the reason I don't do that, and that I think the best one to make an example of is travel. Let's say I have given myself $2,000 for travel, and that's additional travel. That's usually like a plane trip, a trip with friends, or usually it's to go see my grandson or bring my grandson out here. Let's say I don't spend that money. If I were to leave that money in my envelope, even though I've saved it, if I were to leave that in there and then add next year's money to it, then what I'm doing is I am over budget in the year that I am. And I do an annual budget and I want to stick to it, right? So I have my budget, for instance, for travel this year, and it is enough. I don't need to go into last year's budget, right? I don't need that money. So I empty those type of sinking funds out, and I reallocate them just like my emergency funds. And sometimes I will reallocate those into like funds, or as I said, a lot of times it just goes to future D, which means I leave it in my big lump of savings to be dispersed later, so future D can have a bit of a raise. So the ones that I save more for in an annual basis are things like tech, right? I know I don't ever know exactly at the beginning of the year if one of my things is going to go out. So I carry over my tech amount, and if for instance, I need a phone, or I'm probably going to need a phone in 2026. I thought I was going to need one in 2025. If I do, I have $1,000 in this fund. So if I do, there's a possibility I could go over here, right? Or maybe I'll be under one of these other categories, but there is a possibility that I could go over here. The other ones I'm carrying over, lawn, car maintenance, RV maintenance, life happens, and YouTube TV. These are ones that I've already taken. This year's budget that I'm going to show you is lower because I have that money in there. Again, which means I'm going to spend over if I need to, but they're not usually categories I spend over in. And the last ones, HOA and escrow, those are funds that I save for, and they don't necessarily get paid before the end of December. But for instance, I paid my escrow shortage last year for 2024, and my escrow shortage I've been saving through 2025 will pay for 2026, but I'm just always saving those. So I'm not going to be adding to this number. I'm saving $600 more for my escrow short this year, and I'll probably pay $600, and so those two wash. All right, so that's just a little bit about how I come up with those numbers. Now for my home this year, my budget is going to be only $40. This is a significant cut. And this is for just going to be things for like furnace filters. Furnace filters is the big one. You know, any kind of, I don't really need yard equipment anymore, but you know, just stuff around the home. In addition, I have a household budget here too. So tech is just going to get $20 this month or this year because I replaced everything last year and I have money saved for a phone. So I don't need to put much away for this. My medical, I am raising and I'm going to give myself $1,200 this year. It's been a rough dental year for me. My HOA gets $35 a month for $420. I write a check and pay that annually. I should have this money cleared out before, but I don't know when they're going to send my bill. So I may not get to pay it by December 31st. And my escrow short always gets $50. If I do not have an escrow short, then I will just stop saving for it this year if all this money still sits in that envelope. My lawn, I am going to do $50 a month for $600. I am not carrying over all of my lawn care. I'm just carrying over enough for a couple of months. Clothing, I am totally going to wipe out at the end of the year. I've got everything I need. As a matter of fact, I just bought 3 pair of walking shoes, so I'm in really good shape for next year. Gifts, that one will be pretty depleted after Christmas, but whatever's left will get wiped out. Car maintenance, I'm only adding $20 a month too. And again, I'm not planning to have car maintenance expenses this year. This is not, you know, oil changes and stuff. This is new tires or an engine breakdown or something like that. So this is just a savings account. It's going to add to my car maintenance that I already have. And same thing with my RV maintenance. My RV maintenance is a little higher this year because I expect to actually use at least this much. I may be able to add some more to that. Van gear, this is just a little category for things I might need for my van, right? If I want to get a gadget or something like that. Life happens, I am going to carry over $1,000 of what is in there, and then I am going to save $40 a month for $480. My catch-all, which is the fund that it's a little bit different than miscellaneous because what it allows me to do is take the money out of this and put it where I need to. It can go to fun or necessary, anything that's needed. Shopping, this is miscellaneous shopping. This is, you know, go to Amazon and buy something that I want. $960 for the year. Subscriptions, I changed this to a sinking fund because I've changed all of my subscriptions to annual except for YouTube Premium because they don't let you do that once you have already signed up for a monthly plan. They make more money on monthly, so I guess that's what they want to do. And YouTube TV, $40 a month. This is something I share with someone else. I share the cost of YouTube TV. I put the money aside and then do that in bulk, give it to them in bulk. So planning and budgeting supplies, $35 a month, $420. This carries everything I need and a couple of things that I want. So the total for this category is going to be $800 or $9,600 for the year. It leaves me $10,800 for, you guessed it, travel. What? Yep, 900. And yes, it's, you know, I'm sure it hasn't slipped by you that travel is going to be my most expensive line item other than my bills. Yep. You know where my priorities are. Okay, my general travel is going to be $200. I am not really carrying over, but I'm taking a trip in December and through the 1st. And I know I'm going to have some extra expenditures on that trip because I'm going to see my grandson. And if I can't spoil him, why bother going? So I am actually going to take a little bit out of this money and prepay it on my credit card and give myself a credit so that that expense ends up getting counted in December because that's really when the trip is taking place. It's just going to take place after my credit card cuts, which is usually when I cut off my spending. So I will save a little bit over for that so I don't start off January negative. And then my general travel is going to get $2,400. My RV trips, this is a huge increase for me. It's been like $2,800 in the past. It is going up to $4,800. This is going to be the main way I do all my travel. I'm hoping to do one big trip, 2 big trips, and then a bunch of weekend trips because having my RV now means I can camp in hot and cold weather and still enjoy myself. And then cruises. Now, cruises is $200 a month, or $200 a month, or $2,400 per year. This is just my port fees, taxes, parking fees, etc. I get most of my cruises free. Should that change, this is one of those things I was talking about. Should that change and they stop pulling my offers, then I can take extra money out of those annual expenses to help cover for this, right? I already have 3 cruises booked next year and paid for, so I believe this is going to be all that I need. All right, this last category I'm going to call TBD, to be determined, $100 a month for $1,200, and it can go anywhere into these travel funds that I want. As I said, the word for me this year is flexibility. So that means if I end up only saving $5,000 in these funds this year and I spend $15,000 on travel, so be it, y'all. I am going to be comfortable doing that. All right, so let me buzz out a little bit. This is basically my budget for next year. Now, as I said, I am going to start cash stuffing twice a month, and I will do a budget with you before I cash stuff. And then I'll cash stuff my variable expenses and my sinking funds. This is written down for my budgeting purposes. When I actually do the budget, I will sit down with my envelopes and find out what I have, most pressing, and stuff those first. For instance, I don't need like money for escrow or HOA until the end of the year. So I will probably not even stuff those for a while until I get some of these other funds built up. But that's how I will do the cash stuffing on the 1st and the 15th. As I talked about or maybe I'm going to talk about it. I am going to be keeping my mini Mondays and my annual goals this year. The rest of my savings challenges are TBD right now. I know that for the first couple of months, I need to build up my sinking funds because I'm not carrying any over. In the past years, I've carried some over and taken away from this budget so I wouldn't exceed it. That's not what I'm doing this year. And so I'm going to need to build some of these up. So I can't do savings challenges to start the year because I'm going to need money in these right away. As you can tell, between the 2 of these, that's $1,700 a month. So if I were putting that into sinking funds or into savings challenges, I would have nothing for my sinking funds. Let me see. I think that's it. I have my notes over here on my computer. Sorry. I put notes in here so I could make sure and cover everything with you. There's a couple of notes I have on here that I've actually covered in that other video. So I hope that each and every one of you have an amazing day today. I am going to post this on my Thursday video spot that I spend out for my overall retirement because I want people to know what my income is for retirement. And this will take place of an informational video in something else that I'm doing. This is the last video I'm going to make before I go on break. I'm not sure it's the last video you're going to see before I go on break, but it's the last one I'm going to make. And so I just want to wish you from the bottom of my heart the very merriest of Christmas and Happy New Year's. I hope that you are just engulfed in the love of your friends and family, and that you just have a tremendous holiday season with those that you love. Until the next time, folks. Bye.